right? I'm listening to a friend of mine who is stuck with the ego death, cannot see that it's actually benefiting you, that you become more when you realize that your ego is not you. You don't become less, you become more. Say this is your soul. Your soul is energy. Energy never gets lost. Energy transforms. Think about that word, transform. Transient form. So it inserts itself into matter and constructs this story around itself. And it's not even the soul as such, or the spirit that the soul sends out into the material world. It's the fact that for the first 7 years, this body, this physical spirit, this spirit that's incarnate in this body, is still very much connected to its soul. That's why we're having very many lucid experiences, lucid dreams. As children, we fly around, we're not that attached to the body. But what also happens is that we absorb, we're in this mental state, in this brainwave state that allows the physical form to be programmed, almost like with a computer program. It's just how we are created, right? So what happens is your parents tell you, your name is such and such. And you absorb that, you take that on. Then they guide you through your first few lives, and you make mistakes, you do this and it's wrong, and you do that and it's right, you get praised for this. So you start to conform to the cultural norms that your parents have already been indoctrinated into, and you know, you become this thing that clothes itself in what it perceives as itself. By the age of 7, you have metamorphosed into this persona. You identify with that persona. You are no longer connected with that as strongly as you were as a child. You've become this persona, this construct. You've started to put on this garment. And you identify as Max, Moritz, Anne, Elizabeth, whatever. That you think that's you. You think that character that you're playing in this story that you've been inserted into, that's the story you're now telling yourself, because you've absorbed it like a computer program. Here's the hardware, the computer, whatever it's, I forgot now, I can't think. The hard disk, the hard drive, and it's taken on this program. But that's not who you are. You're a part of this soul. You are an incarnation of that soul. You see, there's many more to come. Shit. Right? So is the next one ready and waiting? And then you start thinking, oh, something might not be quite the way it seems. So after death, that body dies, and this bit goes back to its origin and gets stored in there. Out comes the next one. Yeah? So that one has now made all the experiences, brought it back to its soul, and its soul now creates another lifetime. another lot of absorbing. Yeah, absorbing impressions from the story around it, until you realize that actually I'm not that and I'm not that, I'm actually that. Now I'm asking you, think about this. Who has gained? What is more, what is less? If you drop your ego, this thing, and realize you're that thing, have you gained or have you lost? When you understand you're that, have you gained or have you lost? And how does that change this story? Are you now on your way to come back and maybe even change that? So it doesn't feel the need anymore to go into this story. And now we're having whole nations that have group fate, yeah? They have culture. You get born into a country and that has a certain culture, and you take on that cultural expression. You take on the trauma of that nation. Like us Germans, we have this burden, this trauma that ends up in self-hatred, yeah? Really, really bad self-hatred. I know that my grandparents, I could love them freely because I didn't get dragged in my early childhood through that war. I didn't then get, well, I did. They tried to indoctrinate me against my grandparents, but it didn't fucking work because there was a generation in between. But my uncle had strife with my grandfather. And I grew up in that strife. My story, my personal story, my ego got polluted by that. I suffered. Do you think I still suffer once I understand what the process is? Or have I become more? Have I become less by detaching from that story, or have I become more? Can I heal that when I understand that that is a story or not? Ego death is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you I can't understand why people can't understand that. What is so hard to understand here? And no, the soul can't die because it's energy. It's pure energy. It can transmute, it can transform, it can rise up, it can fall down. But it can't disappear because it's energy. It gets transformed. Alchemy. It can't get lost. So then the story in the garden, who was the real God there? Was it the God that said, you know, you will die if you eat from that tree? Or was it the other thing, the snake, that said you will surely not die? Was that God that said you will die, was that the little ego thing here? So who was the snake? You're back to Gnosticism and the way they viewed the world. I can't make it any more simple than that. I hope you see this video. You gotta stop worrying about the ego death and see it as a positive thing, as an enlightening thing.